So often in an experiment we might want to ask participants a question and then use their answer to that question to decide where to send them next. In this example we're going to ask participants if they are a dog owner or not. If they answer yes, we want them to continue with the experiment. If they answer no, we want to thank them and end the study there. I'm going to show you how to set this up in Gorilla using embedded data in the questionnaire builder and a branch node in the experiment tree. So here I have my experiment so far, and right now the start node is connected to this questionnaire dog question. So let's open up this questionnaire and see how it's configured. So you can see on the right that we're asking participants if they have ever owned a dog, and we have a drop-down menu where they can select yes or no. And on the left you can see how this drop-down widget is configured. So we provide the options that we want to give participants separated by a comma, so here yes and no. And the other settings that we want to pay attention to here are key and write to embedded data. So key is the name that we will use to refer back to this answer from our branch node. So we actually want to copy this text because that will then make it easier to paste it directly into the branch node when we use it later. And write to embedded data, this needs to be selected as it is here. And this is the setting that makes the answer to this question available to us later in the experiment. So now let's go back to our experiment, and the next thing we need to do is add our branch node. So add new node branch, and you can think about a branch node as effectively dividing participants into groups. So with our dog ownership question, there are two possible groups. A group of dog owners and a group of non-dog owners. So let's start by configuring the group of dog owners, and I will walk you through each of these fields one by one. So group is just the name that you want to use for this group of participants. So make it something meaningful and intuitive, like dog owned. Property is the key of the question that you're using to figure out which group a participant should be in. So remember, we just copied the key field from the relevant question in our questionnaire. We can now paste that key into here, and I would actually recommend you do it this way because this way you avoid errors that could be caused by retyping, and that's important because this has to exactly match the key of the question, and that includes that it has to match by case. Rule is the rule that you want to use to check the answer. So for example, you might want the answer to equal a particular value, or if it's a number you might want it to be greater than a particular value. So for example, if you're collecting participants' age, you might want to auto-reject any participant who is younger than 18. Here, if someone is a dog owner, then we want their answer to equal the value of yes. And again, this has to match exactly how the options are configured in your drop-down or your radio buttons or wherever you set this up in your questionnaire. So if I typed yes in lowercase here, that wouldn't work because, as we just saw in the questionnaire, yes is written in title case. Okay, so that is the dog owners branch. We then click the plus button to set up our next group of the non-dog owners. So again, group is just the name for this group, so let's call them no dog owned. And in fact, because anyone who doesn't say yes to this question effectively falls into the no dog owned group by default, we can leave the rest of this blank. The only thing we need to do is to tick this default box to set up this branch as being the default. So as we've set this up, by default participants will be assigned to the group no dog owned unless they answered yes to the dog ownership question. So that's our branch node. Click save, and then we need to connect it up into our experiment tree. So we connect it up to our dog question. And then we need to set up the tasks or the questionnaires that we want to send participants from each group to. So for this purpose, I've set up some questionnaires with some text. So let's add those in. We have dog success and dog fail. And now we need to connect them to the respective branches from our branch node. So the left branch is the dog owned branch. We connect that to dog success. The right branch, no dog owned, we connect that to dog fail. And finally, we want participants who own a dog to do the rest of our experiment and then end up at a finish node because we want to include their data. If participants don't own a dog, we want to send them to a reject node. So we have to add a reject node. We'll leave all these options as default for now. And then we connect dog fail to the reject node. Okay, so that is all set up. Now we can preview our experiment to make sure that it works as we intended. So let's try answering yes, and we're sent to the dog success questionnaire, and we would then continue with the experiment and end up at a finish node. If we instead answer no, we are sent to the dog fail questionnaire, and we would end up at a reject node. So that's just an example of how to use embedded data in the questionnaire builder and branch nodes in the experiment tree to send your participants down different paths depending on their answer to a question. For more information on this topic, you can search for embedded data on the support page, or you can consult our troubleshooting guide.